In this week's news bulletin, church leaders say poker machines should be illegal. Christian NGOs help after typhoon batters Philippines. And could chocolate make you smarter?
This is InFocus Christian News and Current Affairs.
Christian leaders have joined an alliance that aims to have poker machines declared illegal in Australia. According to the New Daily, Reverend Tim Costello, who chairs the Australian Church's Gambling Task Force, is working together with Melbourne-based law firm Maurice Blackburn to bring the case to either a courtroom or Parliament. The alliance points to research that suggests poker machines are deliberately designed to produce addiction in gamblers and cause untold social harm. Another supporter is independent federal Senator Nick Xenophon, who entered politics in South Australia in 1997 under a no pokies ticket. Senator Xenophon is calling for a plebiscite on poker machines to be held at the same time as the vote on same-sex marriage. Australia's Catholic bishops have condemned the treatment of women in Australia's immigration detention centres, which they describe as part of an unjust and immoral system. The public statement comes after the alleged rape and pregnancy of Somali refugee Abiyan triggered a round of political claims and counterclaims that have again put Australia's offshore detention regime under scrutiny. The bishops say Catholic welfare services stand ready to offer trauma counselling to Abiyan and practical support to her and her baby, as well as others in her situation. Church leaders have repeatedly called for quicker refugee processing, the end of mandatory detention, and the closure of offshore processing centres. Philippines authorities say 500,000 people have been displaced by Typhoon Kopu, which hit Luzon, the nation's most populous island, last week. According to Adventist Review, 54 people were killed as the Category 5 storm pummeled the region. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, has its Southeast Asian headquarters in Luzon and was able to be one of the first NGOs to respond to the disaster. ADRA has been distributing emergency shelter kits to families hit hardest by the typhoon and says that the greatest need going forward will be to rebuild damaged and destroyed homes. After a high-profile 5-year legal battle, 6 leaders of Singapore's City Harvest megachurch have been convicted of fraud to the value of $50 million. According to the ABC, the court found the leaders had diverted donations given to the church's building fund and spent the money establishing the pop star singing career of the founding pastor's wife. Since 2012, the church has operated under a new leadership structure and has taken steps to improve its financial accountability. Founding pastor Kong Hee, who was one of those convicted, has not admitted wrongdoing, but according to the Straits Times, has apologised to the congregation for the pain and turmoil they have endured. A series of 7 arson attacks on African-American churches around the city of St. Louis, Missouri, has had police and churchgoers looking for answers. Back in June, a number of predominantly black churches in various southern states were burned, not long after the mass shooting at a South Carolina Bible study. This time, according to Press TV, the attacks have all consisted of small fires lit at the front doors of church buildings around St. Louis, a city that has seen racial tensions explode into protests and disorder in its northern suburb of Ferguson. Both local authorities and church leaders, however, say there's no direct evidence that the church burnings are race-related. In an historic first, Fiji is preparing to inaugurate a Seventh-day Adventist as its president. Major General George Conrote has most recently been serving as a government minister, but has resigned his position in order to take up the presidency, a mostly ceremonial role similar to that of Governor-General in other Commonwealth countries. President-elect Conrote's appointment is controversial in some quarters. Not only is he the first Adventist in the position of president, but he's also the first non-chief and the first from the Rotuman ethnic minority group. His inauguration has been set for the 5th of November. The 2015 Religious Freedom World Report makes for sobering reading, with clear evidence emerging that all is not well, particularly for religious minorities. The survey of more than 220 countries identified trends of increasing government restrictions on religious freedom, as well as rapidly growing threats from non-state actors, including extremist and terror groups. The biennial report is produced by the Seventh-day Adventist Church's Public Affairs and Religious Liberty Department. It takes special note of the situation of Adventists, who are a religious minority in each of the 216 countries where the Church is established. The Adventist practice of Sabbath observance is a particular source of difficulty with schools and employers, even more so in countries where religious fundamentalists are influential. Religious leaders in Myanmar have joined together to call for religious freedom to be respected for the sake of the nation's children. According to UN News, the joint statement by Buddhist, Christian, Hindu and Muslim leaders says that children can flourish best in an environment where there is tolerance and respect for religious diversity. The statement comes during an election campaign featuring Buddhist nationalist slogans, and after changes to the law that severely limit the rights of ethnic and religious minorities. Good news for chocolate lovers, with new evidence emerging that dark chocolate, in particular, may make you smarter. The preliminary research from Adventist-owned Loma Linda University suggests that the cacao in dark chocolate affects regions of the brain associated with learning and memory. The result seems to be an improvement in memory, an increase in intelligence, and even a boost in mood. The researchers are keen to point out, however, that their findings are preliminary and apply only to dark chocolate, not to milk chocolate or white chocolate. Dark chocolate. And that's this week's news. For more from Record InFocus, including lifestyle tips and glimpses into the world of archaeology, check out our website, record.net.au. Thanks for your company this week. I'll see you next time on InFocus Christian News.